was the PE teacher yesterday.
Join there. With that, I will ask Pam, I'll call the meeting to order and ask Pam to please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let us begin. Let's begin with Dieter Schindler.
Here.
Angela Anderson.
I'm here.
Rick Stevens.
He's on a
Berman.
flight.
Here.
Angel Dupré-Bouchard.
Here.
Ryan Slack.
Here.
And David Knight.
Here.
Yeah, not the other one we talked about. Cool. I was just double checking because I was like, did I miss that when I was looking? No. Yeah. All good.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Next up, we have item 3, which is our call to the public. Just the ground rules, just as a reminder, please limit your comments to 3 minutes and address your comments directly to me. Identify yourself by name and address when making the comments, and there's a sign-in sheet in the back too. And comments should be courteous, civil, and constructive. Town council will make no decision or take action except to direct the town manager. And I think we have a couple public hearings on, if your comments happen to be, which I don't think they are, about the public hearing topics coming up in the agenda, wait till then. Otherwise, floor is open.
Okay, and my name is Kathleen Brem. It's good to be here. I'm a resident of the community. I've been communicating with various members of the board for the past year. I've been a lifelong recreational bicyclist, and I'm disappointed that the pathways and trails have become danger zones across the country. And it was over 18 months ago that I had a severe accident when a 63-year-old fellow recklessly driving an e-bike on the Rio Grande Trail ran into me. After 4 surgeries, I'm finally making progress. Fortunately, I did not suffer a brain injury. Therefore, I choose to advocate for safety. Aspen Daily News article. Oh my goodness, I could not believe the timeliness of this, so this can cut short a heck of a lot of my comments as far as what's happening with e-bikes. The numbers are increasing of accidents, and there is a correlation with e-bikes. Many community members have shared they needed to step aside on sidewalks as e-devices. Narrowly missed them, as well as observing young teens pop wheelies and ride with passengers with no helmets. Now, I'm asking for the following safety measures in Basalt. The critical need is the Basalt Police investigate injury-causing accidents on all of the Rio Grande Trail that's within Basalt as well as the town. I know that it's partly managed by RAFTA, but they don't have police enforcement. Why? The individual who hit me never called 911. He refused to give me his name. I don't think he could take off because his bike was damaged. He also refused to give his name to the trail manager. What I found out is only a sworn officer can compel a name to be shared. A good Samaritan saw me in the grass and called 911. When my thoughts cleared, I was able to remember. I reached for the phone that was in my pocket, and I got his picture. Aspen Police, Pitkin Sheriff, as empathetic as they were unable to do an investigation as e-bikes are not classified as motorized vehicles. The sheriff advised me to post the photo and story on social media, which is how he was identified. So that's the first ask. The other thing is, excuse me, I would advise that I'd like to see e-bikes prohibited from sidewalks and to be and also prohibit them being operated by anyone under 16 years of age. I'd like to see the bikes and scooters on sidewalks also prohibited for those who are over 12 years of age. The WeBike program, they should have regular bikes for our youthful riders. Enforce the speed limits and notifications when passing. And I'd like to see fines implemented for bypassing the governor to enhance speed on any of these e-bikes. That's easily done. Now, for that, it's going to need some surveillance. So that might be some camera surveillance. Of course, it needs bodies also to enforce this. Aspen's made some big changes in this area. And I just shudder to think of the catastrophic consequences had it been my 10-year-old granddaughter who was riding in front of me.
Thank you.
This was 300 pounds of force, let alone the speed behind it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the comments. Gloria, maybe at some point when, as we get, spring, have an update, kind of what the rules are, where, that we could do for, all of our edification and reminders, and also for the public. This topic has come up at RAFTA. You've been there, Kathleen. There's been a lot of press highlighting the increased incidence of accidents, not just here, but nationwide. That New York Times article, I know a lot of people have seen. So I think it's an evolving topic, but it'd be good to kind of level set on where we're at now as far as the regulations and jurisdictions, and then maybe that'll generate some discussion about what we might be able to do additionally going forward.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
It's a very serious thing that I see too, with kids going to school on the sidewalk, as well as even in my neighborhood, someone was in a very bad accident. So I appreciate you coming to us.
Yeah. Anyone else? Thank you for the comments. Is Rachel Shinman online? Is that
She's with EPS, so she's.
cool? So we'll move on to mayor and council comments. Floor is open. All right, I don't have any either, so I will move on to item 5, which is the manager's report.
Sure. So I have a couple of things immediately. I'm looking for 2 council volunteers to serve on the selection committee of the Roaring Fork Charity Classic Beneficiary Fund. The selection committee is scheduled to meet the week of February 2nd, depending on schedules, and the recommendations would be presented to council on February 10th.
I'll do it.
Okay, Angela? One more?
What does it entail?
So it would be reviewing the applications for the Roaring Fork Charity Classic Beneficiary Fund. So when we, and probably James can speak to this a little bit better than I can, so James, if you want to
Sure.
give the background of that.
Through the Roaring Fork Club approvals, there's a requirement for the club to host an event, a golf tournament every year. And so we put out applications for nonprofits to be beneficiaries and actually run the tournament. And so they get the funds from running the tournament. And so this year we've got 4 applications for nonprofits to run the tournament. And so annually we do a committee to review those and make the selection, and then bring it back to council to affirm the selection.
And you said that was February 2nd?
The week of February 2nd, depending on your all schedule.
I could do it.
Peter? Okay. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. And then a little election update. As of Monday, January 6th, 4 nomination petitions for council have been turned in. 3 of them have had their signatures verified, and one needs to be amended before it can be accepted, being short just 1 signature. So saving the date, Monday, March 2nd, the Basalt Chamber will host a candidates forum at the library. A meet and greet will be held from 5 to 6 p.m., followed by a forum from 6 to 8 p.m. And then ballots will be mailed beginning of March 16th, and voters can go and verify the registration at govotecolorado.com. And then some internal news. We just completed a staff survey last week with 35 responses, so we had full participation from our staff. And the survey was meant to help us with our employee handbook updates and provide baseline for future surveys. Overall, the feedback was positive and constructive, and I'm happy to report that over 85% of our staff are satisfied or very satisfied with their current career at the town of Basalt. So we are, the employee handbook changes will be coming before the council probably late February and March for final approval. And then I do want to put a shout out that we had 31 employees trained on the incident command system for the government employees by Pitkin County Manager Chris Brightback. And I really want to thank him for coming down and doing that with our staff. We were kind of leading the way, and now he's convincing Aspen that their staff has to do it too. So the incident command system is a commonly referred to framework for disaster management. So having all of our staff go through that will be beneficial in our future. And then you'll see in your agenda packets the staff reports. This is a new format, keeping council and the community apprised of staff activities. These will be in the packet once a month. Our newsletter will also be coming out once a month, so sign up on our website. I'm always open to feedback on the format of those reports to make sure we're getting all the information out there.
Appreciate the project updates for each of you guys. It's really helpful, so.
I agree. I really enjoyed reading those. It's nice to see like what's coming.
All right. Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Thank you for that. Next up, we have our presentations, and then 6A is Regional Housing Needs Assessment, Proposition 123 update. And we have Liz is up now, and Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. So I've asked Liz Expert, the City of Aspen's Housing and Policy Analysis, to make a presentation updating you on the regional efforts going on with Prop 123. As you know, in 2022, the town of Basalt directed staff to pursue Prop 123 funding to support our housing programs, policies, and developments. And we are challenged as a region with qualifying for those funds because of the low AMI requirements set by the state. So Liz is going to give a little more background and detail about what we've been doing and what she's been doing, what we've been supporting, and where we are.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michelle, and thank you everyone for having me here. I do know a couple of you from West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, so nice to see you. But for those who I don't know, since this is my first time here, I'm Liz Axberg, as Michelle said, and I'm the Housing Policy Analyst for the City of Aspen. I'm in the City Manager's office, and I've been taking point on this housing needs assessment. I'm looking forward to giving you an update on it, and a lot of the focus today is really on the why we're doing this and what it's going to amount to. But I also did bring some high-level data that we can speed run through just so you can see the key takeaways that we've had so far. But I do want to think of today as it's a checkpoint, and I'll get into that more. It's because we still have the remaining components of this housing needs assessment to finish. We're basically halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way through, and hoping to finish that out in 2026 by the end of spring or so. And the data slides I put in the packet are a little bit more detailed, and those were the presentations that Snowmass Village, Pitkin County, and Aspen received. And so today's a little bit more focused, though, on the project overview as a whole. And I do have Rachel Shinman online, too. She's from EPS, and she is my backup in case any of you have any data questions that she's more equipped to answer, just because she has been the one that's been doing all the analysis. She helped inform a lot of the guidelines that went into these housing needs assessments that the state developed, and so she's really the expert. And I believe did Basalt's housing needs assessment that you recently did too. So she's kind of the state housing needs assessment expert. But let's keep going. So really to level set and inform why we did this housing needs assessment, we need to start with Proposition 123 and Senate Bill 24-174. And some of you are probably familiar with these, but I'll just start at the basics for those who aren't. So Proposition 123 was the Affordable Housing Fund approved by Colorado voters November 2022. Initially, it was around $300 million in affordable housing funding. And this year, though, because of the state deficit, a bit of it's been diverted in this last cycle. So there's only around $22 million left, but it's still plenty to help cover some gaps in projects. And there are several different projects included in this. This includes land banking, equity and concessionary debt. I would also add to this, as Michelle said, these had pretty limited requirements in terms of what AMIs these different funding pools could serve. And like land banking is capped at 60% AMI for rental, 100% AMI for ownership. Equity is capped at 90% AMI for project averages. Concessionary debt is a little bit more LIHTC focused and is capped at 60% AMI for rentals. And so, as many of us know, these AMIs that have been laid out by the state don't really work for our community. It's just, we have programs that have to serve people who make significantly higher than 100% AMI, and we just tend to have higher wages because of the higher cost of living here. And so to be able to be eligible for funding in these different programs, rural resort communities can submit these rural resort income limit petitions. They have to be backed by housing needs assessments to show and prove that we have housing needs at higher AMIs than what the programs currently allow. So that's really the first thing that made us realize we needed to get moving on this. Secondly, there's Senate Bill 174, which is just state legislation that now is requiring all local governments have a housing needs assessment. Has to be updated every 6 years. And then in that too, there's this housing action plan, which we're still kind of learning what all will be required in that. And so our goal of this housing needs assessment was to get the data necessary to support that rural resort income limit petition to be able to unlock some funding for Prop 123, because Aspen's planning to try to get some funding for lumberyards. Snowmass is planning to try to get some funding for the draw site. And so that was really the big piece, but then also there's the Senate bill requirements, and so the other part of the housing needs assessment is to make sure that we're complying with that. So yeah, so those are the two big drivers that really went into the why of doing this housing needs assessment. Now I can go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about the what. So February 2025, we started work with EPS to get this work done. Picken County, Aspen Snowmass Village, we were paying for this study because we agreed to go in together on a rural resort petition. And but we've been working with Basalt. Thank you so much for working with us through this. We also included Garfield County, Carbondale, Glenwood Springs, Newcastle, Silt Rifle, Parachute to really try our best to capture the commuter corridor best that we could and really inform the housing needs in this region. And so we ended up also splitting the housing needs assessment into two separate phases. First was to get the petition done for Proposition 123, which we're submitting now. And we really wanted to expedite that part because funding was time sensitive versus the Senate bill requirements are, it's not till December 2020. I have to double check 27. That it's required to be finished for that. And so those are the remaining components that we'll build out from here on out. And we'll check in with councils once that piece is done. And then also, I don't want it to feel like we're just trying to check boxes too. So there's other perks of doing a housing needs assessment. It's helpful for planning. It's not the end all be all. It's not a legally binding commitment saying here's the number of units you need to build. It's a tool to help us plan and understand the needs in our communities. And some of the data I hope you really find interesting as well. That's always a good part as well. That being said, are there any questions about Prop 123 or the Senate bill or the project as a whole? Okay, great. Well then I'm just gonna speed run some data, tell you some of the big takeaways you had, and then we can talk about next steps quickly. So, yeah, go here. Okay, so as many of us already know, Picken County's population we're seeing is gonna be fairly stable. Well, we're seeing a lot of growth in Garfield County, actually. We're also seeing populations, and this is happening nationwide too, but counties are aging as a whole, but we are seeing significantly, like as you go down the valley and into the Colorado River Valley, household sizes get bigger and younger as well. It's a very distinct pyramid trend that way. Next I can do some economic trends. So Garfield County actually has 1.5 times as many jobs as Picken County, projected to grow slightly higher rate. And it's Garfield County is really big, so this wasn't too surprising. It's a really big county, but we still see Picken County as the driver of economics in the region. We just have higher wages, which is why everyone is doing that commute up valley. So like in the bottom one, 62% of Picken County's workers commute from outside the county, which is a pretty stark number. And keeping in mind, like, this could also mean you live on one end of Basalt in a different county and commute into a different county. So there's some of that too, but for the most part, like, as we know, I mean, I drive from Carbondale to Aspen for work, and a lot of people commute, and there's a reason why, higher wages. So next, we can go into housing trends. Vacancy rates are much higher in Picken County than Garfield County. As we know, there's just a lot more second, third, fourth homeowners. One thing that's just amazing is that we have about 4,500 units of affordable housing in our region. It's just incredible. 90% of them are in Picken County. And then, as also we all know, houses are expensive here. There's nowhere in the region where the median price of a single family home is less than 1.5 million. Townhomes less than 1.25 million. Next, some housing affordability numbers. So 100% AMI in Picken County is $100,000, and a two-person household at this level can afford around $2,500 a month, which someone who's just part of the rental market for a while, that can be really hard to find something in that price range. And even households at 200 and 300% AMI cannot afford the median priced home in the mid or upper valley. So unaffordability is a big issue here. Yeah, now I can actually go into the overview of housing needs. So this is just to help you understand how we're calculating housing needs in this study. These slides were all created by EPS, by the way, but it just helps you know where these numbers are coming from, and I'm just letting you know where we're at right now. So there's two components. We have the catch-up, which includes how we can reduce overcrowding. So when there's households with too many people than compared to the number of bedrooms. We also are taking a certain number of the people commuting and taking that into the housing needs as well. So it's a percentage of people who commute who would maybe move to Picken County. And then we're also looking at unfilled jobs. The second component that goes into housing needs is this keep-up need. So we have employment growth that goes into that over a 10-year period, and then also units to accommodate employees filling jobs vacated by retirees. Someone retires, they stay in their unit, that job's open, so they need somewhere to live, basically. And these are pretty to the, like, this is what the state recommended, how we calculate housing needs. So we're trying to abide by recommendations. And then just as a reminder, this number I'm about to show you, this isn't like we all need to build this much housing. It's just an idea to help us understand better what the housing need here is, and we all know it's really great. So can you hop to the next slide? So the 10-year net housing need calculated for Picken County is 22,545 units. And Basalt's share makes up, if you look at the chart there, around 12% of this, and that's really allocated by job growth in each town within that as well. And as I said, like Snowmass Village looks at this and it's like, we're not going to build 508 units in 10 years. So it's really supposed to be informative, and I would say housing needs assessments are a tool that, among everything else that you have, like growth plans to help us inform what we want our communities to look like and what the needs really are. And also, I'll say this again, this is our kind of like halfway checkpoint, so there's still going to be a full housing needs report too to come out. So that brings us to our next steps. So right now, Picken County, Aspen, Town of Snowmass Village, we are submitting our Proposition 123 petition to try to qualify for some of those funds. We are finalizing this Phase 1 report. For that portion, they require you to have a final report. That being said, the final one will be when we finish building out the compliant housing needs assessment with Senate Bill 174, which will just include some more things like housing problems, housing resources, challenges, opportunities, and you get some time to fill in some context of what your community actually has going on. So that's everything. I know that was kind of like crash course of Prop 123 and the housing needs assessment. So happy to field any questions or, yeah.
Just one small question. I get why it's not included in there, but obviously you jump Eagle County because Basalt splits that. The majority of everything else you're partnering with is in Garfield. Is there any extra analysis on, Eagle County's pretty big on this side, even though it isn't as big as the true Eagle County?
So I just today was sitting in the Eagle County Housing Development Authority quarterly meeting.
Okay.
I got it right. And they had just announced that their regional housing needs assessment for the same exact reasons just got approved this week. So everybody's getting there. We're taking the steps. So there'll be some crossover.
Okay.
The thing for Basalt and how this is all relevant for us is we had our housing needs assessment done prior to this work. You guys sat through that presentation, that process a while ago. Right after we finished it and paid the last invoice, the state said, hey, you know what? We just made this checklist of things that we're now going to require to be in your housing needs assessment to access the funds, which will basically make you pay for a second new housing needs assessment. So with that in mind, DOLA reached out and said, don't do it. Hang on. We're going to do a regional needs assessment because you're all in the same boat. Let us do this. Let these guys who have funds go through the process, figure out how to be successful, and then we'll figure out how to have access for you. So we're in a really great place between Eagle County having just had that accomplished and so much progress happening here. So that's the relationship, and I wanted you guys to know that going forward since you have some funding stuff coming up in the future.
And
I just want to add to it. Oh, you go, Rachel.
From the data perspective, in most cases where you see basalt in the data, that includes the Eagle County portion of basalt.
Okay.
We've done our best to include like community as a whole in the data. The portion, the map gets a little funky, but that's generally reflected. And I think just to Michelle's point, I think the previous needs assessment, because it's so recent and it's more two together, really well, sort of the macro and the micro, this helps us understand how basalt fits into the region, and the local needs assessment helps provide a really clear roadmap of what's going on at the local level.
yeah, and as we just said too, Eagle County did just do a housing needs assessment, which I think will be really interesting to compare the two as well. And already having Picken and Garfield, we have a massive region covered in this housing needs assessment, but it was tricky always figuring out how to make sure that we're really covering who all lives here, yeah, and where we all are, so.
No, and I appreciate you guys going way beyond your boundaries and using your funds for a giant study that we all need for this participation. So kudos to the city of Aspen for stepping up.
Yeah, and I appreciate everyone who's contributed to it, and I mean, Parachute working with us and sending us data as well, and
awesome.
Working together has been great.
Yeah. Good stuff. Any other questions or comments?
I have some guesses, but one of the things that's interesting in the slides is that Picken County's vacancy is increasing. Garfield County's vacancy is decreasing. Like, what were the biggest categories causing that increase in homes being occupied by real people in Garfield County from a data perspective?
That's an interesting question. I mean, we know why the trend in Aspen
Yeah.
is happening, right? And especially how much that's starkly been increasing. But in Garfield County, I mean, that's a good question, I guess. So.
Like Parachute's jumping from 31% to 7% unoccupied.
Everybody's moving there, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's moving down Valley, and they're just moving, it used to be moving to Carbondale or Glenwood, now everybody's moving to the Colorado River.
And were those like second homes before, just homes that weren't sold?
It's a lot of new development there,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, that was an interesting visual, seeing that, as you kind of see the gap move like that between the 2010 and 24 bars. Good stuff. Anybody else have anything? All right. Thanks, Liz. That was really good. Appreciate
For
Thank
coming
you.
down.
all the
and doing
collaboration.
this. I look forward to following up.
On our way home.
All right. Next up, we have our council actions. First up is 7A. It's a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 1, series of 2026, ordinance of the town council of the town of Basalt, Colorado, ordinance of the amending town code sections 11-1 and 11-178 to license, permit, and regulate the use of town rights-of-way, sidewalks, or other town property within the town of Basalt. And Michelle and Carlton, you guys have this, so the floor is yours.
Good evening, council. I'm back this evening for public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 1, series of 2026. Just as a refresher for everybody, you guys saw this a couple weeks ago, but the goal for this ordinance is to establish process for streetscape activation, primarily in our commercial core and in our commercial areas, by allowing private businesses to access our sidewalks and activate those areas for commercial purposes. Again, a little background, with the completion of the Midland Avenue streetscape, we look forward to encouraging businesses to use that additional right-of-way and further activate our town and promote business in our town. I can open up to any questions, but this is also a public hearing.
Let's do the public hearing first. So I will open the public hearing here at 6:37. And if anyone would like to speak, the floor is open at the podium. I don't see anyone here, and it looks like there's no one online who's going to speak at this point. So I'll close the public hearing and open up to questions or comments. If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 1, series of 2026 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Cool. Thanks, Carlton. Appreciate you getting this all formalized for us for going forward. And you're up for the next one, it looks like. So item 7B is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 2, series of 2026. Ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving amendments to Basalt Municipal Code Article 8, use of town parks and other town property, add a new section 11-179, parks and facilities reservations, and adoption of a fee schedule for reservation of public space within the town of Basalt. And like I said, this is Michelle and Carlton, so the floor is yours.
Similar to the last ordinance, bringing this back for second reading tonight. You guys also saw this 2 weeks ago. The goal here is to establish a process and combine 2 separate processes that had been occurring in the town, and bring those into one single process, as well as updating our fee schedule for reservation of town parks and public facilities within the town. One change since you guys saw this 2 weeks ago, if you look in Exhibit A, 2 parks have been added to the special event fee area, and that would be Patty's Park and the Stotts Mill South Park. Those were just missed in the first pass, but there have been requests in the past to have special events in Willits Town Center, and so Patty's Park was included in that special event fee schedule. And then Stotts Mill South Park has recently been completed and is coming into the jurisdiction of the town, and so that was included as well. But similarly, this is a public hearing, and happy to answer any questions from the public or from you guys.
All right. Thanks for that update on the 2 additional parks, and I'll open the public hearing at 6:39. And if anyone would like to speak, they're welcome to, online or in person. Don't have anybody, so I'll close the public hearing and open it up for questions or comments from my fellow counselors.
Mayor, move the town council adopt ordinance number 2, series of 2026 on second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you again.
Let's go Basalt Lemons.
Yeah. Going to basketball, so we will catch y'all later. Bye.
The gavel. We should use the gavel more often.
Resolution, right? They use the gavel.
You surviving